Welcome, everybody. We are in our 27th season of the Atheist Experience, and we have yet to be convinced by really any argument that we've heard thus far, but that could change today. If you're a theist, please call us because the show starts right now. And welcome, everybody. You didn't tell me you were going to dance. I should have danced with you. And
Sorry, I know. I threw it in at the last minute. Yeah, sorry about that. We'll coordinate next time.
Sure. Well, and actually, it's funny because we tried this new AI stuff, and we tried to clone a secular rarity, but it gave a beard, and there was a mistake on the output. So yeah. So don't adjust your screens. It is not a beardless Jmike or a bearded secular. Today is May 21st, 2023. I am your host, not Secular Rarity, Jmike, and joining me today is not Jmike, Secular Rarity. The Atheist Experience is a product of the Atheist Community, the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. Secular, how you doing? You're on double duty today, right?
I am. Yeah, I am. I have been locked up in this chair for hours now.
Yep.
And I've been told this, folks, and I don't know that this is 100% true. Okay. But what's it hurt? I've been told that I'm not going to be let out of this chair unless you like this video. So if we don't get enough likes on this video, folks, this could be a really rough weekend for me. So help me out and like the video and get me out of this chair. So
yeah, please do. It really does help. I mean, it takes a few seconds to do. It's free. It really helps push out the algorithm if you want more people to be exposed to these types of conversations. If they're sitting on the fence, if they're not sitting on the fence, that's our goal. At least that's what I would like to see. More callers, more people discussing this, and then we inform our actions based on these beliefs. And so please do like it, share it with anybody that you know. We really appreciate that. But before we do get into calls, I do want to get into our share your experience. Before we get into calls, we ask a question. We have you leave it in the audience. The question that we asked this week was, blank is evidence of God's sense of humor. And our top three answers are Adder S, God's sense of humor is mysterious. I was reading this one earlier. This cracked me up. First, he creates dinosaurs that eat mammals to only later turn them into turkeys so that mammals can put them on the Thanksgiving table.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Two, we got Janet. Hopefully I pronounced this right. Morecraft. If I don't, I apologize. Cellulite is an example of God's sense of humor. That's a good one. Yeah. And then Jimmy Jr. NY, God putting Jesus image on toast, pancakes, and dog butts is proof of the sense of humor.
Yes. That takes a comedically minded, fundamental, absolute, axiomatic instantiation, something along those lines.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's proof right there, Jimmy. Yeah, thank you.
Exactly. And so, well, I don't know. I'm going to ask you this in a second, but did you want to add one? I don't want to put. I do this to my co-host sometimes, and I feel bad just to put you on the spot twice because I'm going to do it again in a second.
Gosh, I don't know. God's sense of humor. Let me see if I can come up with.
Well, maybe we'll come back to it. Sure.
Let me see.
Yeah. Well, and maybe for this next one, if you have one, we can see what you have. But for this week, it's going to be wrong answers only, right? So if it weren't for blank, I'd still believe in God. Have you thought of this one, or do you have any?
This one I have. Okay. This one I have. This is a real experience, folks, that happened to me many, many years ago, right around the time that little SR was doing the whole asking the questions and stuff, with my cute little, cap, and, I had probably like a lollipop or something. I don't know what kids do. But anyway, I once had 2 trash bags completely full of trash rip on me and spill everything out within literally a day apart of each other. So the first one happened on a Tuesday, and then the second one happened on the Wednesday. And I was just you know what? Bad trash bags is the reason I don't believe in it. I think that is logically valid and sound. But if you disagree, we've got open lines. So whatever.
Yeah, and actually, let's get into that. Let's just go
Yeah.
straight to that, and we'll get some other announcements. But actually, I do want to go for our first call. We're going to have Matt on the line to talk about the Secular Student Alliance Convention, and so we are going to bring Matt up right now to give us some details on that and promote this. So, how's it going, Matt?
It's going great. Thanks for having me back on. I'm also pulling double duty, talked to Secular Rarity earlier today, but I have been able to get up from my chair, so I'm not.
That's good.
Not trying to equate our experiences here.
Yeah. Not forced. Yeah. Well, so like what? So tell us about the Secular Student Alliance Convention and any details that you think are kind of needed or necessary for people to hear.
Yeah, for sure. So we are having our first conference back after 3 years of lockdowns. It's going to be June 16th through 18th at the University of Missouri St. Louis. Like I said, June 16th through 18th is the dates, but our registration closes on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, May 24th. So if you're interested in going, get that registration in right now. You can go to secularstudents.org to register. We also still have some travel grants available for students. So if you're a current student, we can even help you get there. But it's really a great chance to meet our broader secular community. And in addition to some elected officials, people from around our secular community, we will also have a couple ACA affiliated folks. Objectively, Dan's going to be there, Cynthia McDonald, as well as people from around our community, American Atheists, Americans United for Separation of Church and State, American Humanist Association, many more will be represented at our conference. So it's a chance for students to meet this broader secular community and figure out this is how I'm going to be involved in the secular community after I graduate.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff. Anybody that is interested, we have it down below, secularstudents.org. I was going to make sure that was plural and not get you to a different link. But yeah, it's down below to type that in. Matt, thank you so much. We appreciate you pulling the double duty to get that out. Hopefully this allows a big turn up, and we're really glad that now we don't have these restrictions, so we can do stuff like this. If you do end up going, make sure you take precautions, just because we've kind of, now, I guess officially, the CDC, it might be official now, right? That the pandemic it's over. It's not over. We still, in a sense that this should be a lesson for us to learn when we go to these conventions, what to do, wash up, bring your masks. I mean, there's no reason not to.
Yeah.
And so just please do that for the sake of the other people that go to the convention. It's not just for yourself, it's for other people. But thank you again, Matt, so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And if I may, just real quick, also check out our scholarships right next to the link for the national conference on our website. We also have our scholarship applications are open. Those are open to any student who's an activist for the separation of church and state and for promoting secular values. We'd love to get your applications for that too. But thanks again for having me on. 2 shows today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'll say real quick, Jmike, I've been lucky enough over the last year to be able to get to some various conferences, conventions, and so forth around the country, and it's powerful. It really, really is. It's awesome being able to, just hug somebody that you've spoken with, on a weekly basis for like 2 years, and just to know that you're not just going to be hounded by every other person you walk by that's going to ask you about what church you go to and stuff. Like it's a wonderful experience, folks. So
I had that experience in April of last year. Went to a convention. I got to meet a bunch of people that were, people I knew in like the TikTok content creator community, skeptic talk or whatever you want. I don't know how you want to, whatever the label is that you'd call, but and I got to meet a lot of those people, like Dadpool, who's been on the shows.
Oh yeah,
and getting to see them, headline. It was really cool just to see that, starting from opening up your phone and just talking about this to like, I'm headlining this convention and all my friends are here and we're all content creators, and there's people coming up to them saying how much they've helped them. And so it's really cool. It is a really cool experience. So I do urge. I literally all sit there and Google stuff like around my area, and this is why we need to build this so that these things do pop up in your area, and you're not having to go travel, thousands of miles just to do this. We got to make it the norm.
Absolutely.
Before we get into another call, just real quick, since we're on this topic about supporting any atheist community, anything in the realm of, we'll steal the word from your name, being secular, you can support us by just simply becoming a member. And you can do that by clicking the join button below. It only costs you 99 cents a month, and it'll give you access to the special chat emojis that you can flex on everybody else or have you stand out. Maybe your comments will be read easier by other people, and you can engage with other people that way. You can also send a super chat with a question or a comment, which we will. I'll actually pass it to Secular to have read it because that'll avoid me butchering names. And so there we go.
I see.
Yeah.
That's smart. That's fine.
Yeah,
That's fine.
exactly.
That's fine.
Got to keep it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and go to Mars in South Africa. Pronouns are they, them, and they're struggling with accepting parents' growing radical Christianity. A growing radical, Christianity. Sorry, I can't read today. Give me like if you give me 15 minutes in this show, all the gears will come back together. All right,
you'll be infused with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we need, a theist to just imbue me with the Holy Spirit. How you doing, Mars?
Hello, I'm good, and you?
I'm getting there. I'm doing good.
Hello?
Hey, what you got for us today, Mars? Oh, might not be there.
All right, Mars. We'll return you to the. Yeah,
Oh.
you hear us,
Mars?
Oh my God.
That's okay.
Well, it's cool. We'll return you to the queue, and we got another call lined up. I do want to say before I take this call, we want to talk to you if you're a theist. Number is right below, 512-991-9242. Please call in, and we would love to take your call. I'm going to try Rogue Show. Pronouns are he, him, from South Carolina, and wants to dispute my position on philosophical naturalism. Probably have to make some clarifications on that, but I don't know if you want to go first or if you want me to.
Okay, so first, I just want to, before I clarify, I would love some clarity on your position.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, so like my position, at least on when we're talking about like this a metaphysical view of being naturalism and not just like a methodological view, the way that I'm taking this is that it's kind of like an abductive form. So if I'm going to lean towards any position, or the position that I'm going to lean towards the most, it's going to be metaphysical naturalism. And the way that I go about that is comparing theoretical virtues with other views. So we take the data, maybe we think that the universe had a beginning, and the theist thinks that the universe had a beginning, or the non-naturalist or whoever, and we compare that data. And so what I want to end up saying, without going into the entire type of dialectic, is that my view is that when we look at all the data, metaphysical naturalism seems to be, at least from my view, the view that's the simplest that explains the data. So it has least commitments, it has less axiomatic commitments. It has less predicates that it has to define. It has less foreign ontology, less kinds of entities that it's committed to. And if I'm postulating a theory that's supposed to explain the data, I don't want dead weight, and I don't want idle, like an idle wheel, right? So the view that I'm comparing it to always seems more complicated and doesn't explain the data. So my view is just based on an abductive method. I think it's more probable that metaphysical naturalism is true because it's less commitments and it gets more explanatory depth out of the commitments that it takes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does.
And
that's
it's trying to be a more humble position and not saying, oh, I deductively can prove it, or it's just trying to say, look, when we compare the data, given what we have, this is the view that I think wins the Occam's razor battle.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where I come out on it too, Rogue Show. I think Jmike explains it very, very well. So
yeah. So you're a metaphysical naturalist. Mouthful.
It's a view I lean towards. I do want to preface, like, I'm very sympathetic because I like philosophy. I'm actually really sympathetic. Philosophy of mind's my favorite, so I'm really sympathetic to other views. I don't find them to be like theism, atheism exclusive. I feel like there's compatibility with the views. Yeah. So I'm very open to non-naturalism. I have a lot of friends that are non-naturalists. So I'm not sitting there saying like, oh, I'm so convinced. It's just, I think it edges out. I think it's just a simpler theory. The weakest form I'll say is that they both equally explain the data. I have less commitments, so shave off the extra stuff. Or the strongest form of the argument, I explain more data and it's simpler, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I guess so
does that make sense?
Philosophical, yes.
Okay.
So is philosophical naturalism? Does philosophical naturalism state that? Does philosophical naturalism state that nature is all we have, or am I oversimplifying it or getting it wrong?
Well, I mean, like, we could do the philosophy thing where it's like, well, what do you mean? And I think I get what you're saying. My view is that the natural sciences exhaust natural reality.
Yeah.
That's the view I lean towards. I'm not saying I'm absolutely committed 100%. It's the view that I lean towards, the view that I think is more probable. Yeah.
So, yeah, so you're looking, okay, so you're looking, or to, I guess, to try to steel man this.
Sure.
I mean, I agree with you I agree with you. I don't have any quarrel. I don't have any qualms with your position.
Okay.
I just want, because I guess my little dispute with philosophical naturalism is the claim that nature is. I'm not saying this is your position. I'm talking about the claim that this is all
there is.
Naturalism, yeah, or the natural world is all there is, because that's
sure.
If I could,
that's a positive.
Yeah, if I could jump in real quick, Rogue Show, because I think if you just soften that stance by the slightest amount, I think it all of a sudden becomes so much more palatable, right? If you take that hardcore, the natural world is all we have, period, close the book, we're done, versus kind of what Jmike has laid out, which I think is more along the lines of, it seems to be the most likely answer that explains the most things and has the least amount of baggage with it. And I think when you put it in that kind of phrasing, honestly, it doesn't really sound like you're committed to that much, right? Like, it seems like a pretty reasonable position. It's like, hey, we only accept the things that we have really solid evidence for. And that seems to stack up on this side of the scale way more, if not entirely exclusively, than the other side, right? And so it's not something that I think either of us would be completely against changing, but the bar to change that position, I think, should be kind of high, because like we said, it seems to be the case. All of our evidence is stacking up on this one side, you know?
Yeah. And what I want to do is like point out to like somebody that you could look at an electron or something and say, well, I don't think it's natural in my view, or I think it's part natural and part not. That the whole point about the kind of comparison is to go, okay, well, let's take what we're accepting. You don't think it's natural. Even if I do it for the sake of the argument, I'm just taking on the burden of the naturalist. I say, well, I'm just going to take it. That's this one ontology. It's all we have. And we compare that. If we both agree at this principle, that if we can commit to as little as possible in our hypothesis or our theory, and by theory, I don't mean like scientific theory, just a metaphysical theory of armchair kind of thinking here. If we're gonna have something that makes the most sense, we should be committed to the least as possible that explains all the data. And I think we can show this because if Secular goes, well, actually, I hold the principle that I want more things in my view that explains the data, then me and him will just battle each other out. Like, well, I have 2 gods and you have 3 gods and 4 gods. And that's going to become like a cartoon show where it's like, that's all, folks, right? When their 22 minutes are up and we got commercial time, right? So, you know what I mean? So I feel confident that people agree with this kind of idea, that simplicity of the theory, the commitments you get that end up allowing for this huge explanatory breadth and depth. If Rarity is like, well, I believe in this thing, the natural world, but also this divine realm and angels and stuff like that, I'm looking at him, you know, TSA lets me go by, but they see his bag and they're like, whoa, hold on. You're not getting on the plane yet. I got to check that, you know? And that's kind of all my view. It's just abductive. It's very similar to history. You know, if we find more data in history, we do archaeological digs, then we can make different probabilistic assessments. So,
any of that?
That clicks.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have? No, go ahead. I mean, we're gonna.
So what counts as a simplistic? What counts as a simplistic theory?
That's a good question. It's going to be a lot of factors. So I'm going to take that if you have a lot of axioms are you familiar with axioms? Like kind of like unjusted presuppositions that you have. It's kind of like an assumption, right, or a presupposition that you have that isn't justified. Axioms, by definition, just aren't justified, right? And so we all.
Sorry.
Yeah, pretty much that kind of go into our theory. And when we do our axiomatization, if I'm saying that right, when we do that and we lay all that out, my claim is that the simpler theory is the one that has least amount of axioms, least amount of ideological commitments, ontological commitments, predicates. And what I mean by that is like terms. Like you have to define like a divine realm. I have none of that in my view. I don't have to worry about defining these predicates or terms, right, and showing that they refer to reality. So since I don't have to do all that, at least in that view, when I'm looking at those 2 views, I'm going, this one's simpler, has less axioms. You could have just God, right? Just this one thing that explains all things. But that's not right. That's not going to be an interesting hypothesis in the sense that it's going to explain anything you want it to. Well, why does this thing exist? Because of this thing, right? And it's not really going to, not going to really be explaining the data. It's going to be creating like a panacea, right? Where you can just create whatever you want. So does that make sense? That's kind of what I want to view on simplicity there.
Okay, one more thing.
Sure, no, that's cool. It's fine. Yeah. And Secular, feel free. I'm hogging this whole thing.
So, no, it's fine. It's fine. You're doing great, honestly. I've got maybe one example, but sure. I hear what you got to say, Rogue, and then we'll see if it still applies.
Secular Rarity. How dare you? The trash, as you can clearly see, the trash bag has a designer.
Right.
But it's not a designer. Therefore, we're designed. Get it right.
That's pretty fair. That's pretty fair, honestly, Rogue. So just real quick before we let you go and grab some of these other good calls, but the thought that comes to my mind when you had asked Jmike about like what makes a theory simpler, what makes an answer less complicated and stuff. The example that comes to my mind is something you're probably familiar with. I know a bunch of our audience is, where you are debating with somebody where you really, really disagree. And a lot of times it's that big God claim, right? And then they start doing that thing where they go, yeah, but how do you know this? And how do you know that? And what they do is they break down your understanding until it's that very most basic axioms that Jmike was just talking about. And what happens there is we get to that point where the theist goes, oh, you don't know that you're not a brain in a vat. Therefore, my claim and your claim are on the same level. And that's not true. Because we're both using that same axiom of assuming that we're not brains in a vat. Neither of us have good demonstration or justification. And so now we have to step further. And then if my next step is that's everything for me, and your next step is another unjustified assumption, I win. That's how the game is played.
Yeah, and you can do this with the brain in a vat scenario. This is like,
Exactly.
I'm not saying I can deductively prove that I'm not a brain in a vat, but I'm going to take the same argument that I have against theism for the not God world or philosophical naturalism or whatever. The same thing applies. I think naturalism is a simpler commitment than a brain in a vat plus, like, because you just asked this question, like, why did I have this experience rather than another experience in the brain in a vat? And we don't really get an answer, right? There's like no clear answer why I got this experience rather than another. So it becomes brutally contingent. And by brutally contingent, I mean brute being like, that's it. We have run up against explanation. We've run out, but it's like contingent. Whereas if like me and secular rarity are like, well, I have like these neural processes and there's a tree in front of me. There's an explanation why I see, a fucking tree rather than a rhinoceros,
because it's actually there.
And so, yeah, it just seems that when we do this comparison, it's like, yeah, I mean, granted, I can't, extreme skeptic, I can't deductively prove this scenario false, but what I can do is provide a justification by saying that doing this comparison and saying, look, I think that I win with more theoretical virtues and less vices than your theory. And I could be wrong, but that's why I like this discussion, because the person who wants to have this dialectic can potentially convince me. And now we have a principle we agree upon. I don't know why I'm holding my mouse in front of me, but a principle we can agree upon where we can make progress. And we both realize we're in the pursuit of truth and we agree to a similar type of, as humble as we can be about it, because we have to realize we're doing armchair philosophy. Right. And that's like the best we're really going to do. So that's just my view. That's it. So, if anybody's interested in this, just philosophy is full of this type of these theoretical comparisons and stuff. So it's not like I've invented any of this. I've borrowed, heavily lifted this.
Yeah. A lot of people have been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah. So, but I think it's a good thing to justify beliefs.
I was interested. I like philosophy, but I don't know. I feel very lazy because I'm pretty sure the first thing in a philosophy class is hard solipsism or solipsism, and I have yet to look it up.
That's all right. You got a lot of time, and the good news is these days, Rogue, the ability to come across this information is so much easier. And, again, that's why we, people like Jmike and I, and, we love doing this stuff is because 20 years ago, there wasn't a succinct 5-minute breakdown of Jmike explaining why it makes more sense in his view to choose this as opposed to this, like what the difference between the ontological commitments and stuff, 100 years ago. My gosh, if you didn't find the exact paper talking about that, you were just screwed. And that's a good place to be, because what that means is that you have a lot of knowledge out there that you can gain and can help you make better and better decisions. And the only way that we know that is in those moments where we start off with, oh crap, I don't know this. Oh gosh, I don't know this. I need to look further into it. And that's okay. That's a fine place to be.
Yeah, and Rogue, we appreciate the call. We're gonna, thank you.
Thank you for talking. Thank you for talking with me and laughing with me and stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Hopefully all right, we figured something out. I mean,
I like that call. Actually, I was really glad that they called that, because that kind of gets a monkey off my back, so to speak. Because I'm sure I've brushed by kind of that, not really explained it, and
it's a nuanced point, and I think if you aren't fully engaging with every aspect of it, you are going to miss a big part of it. Again, it's because kind of like what Rogue Show was saying at one point, he was taking this kind of more intense stance on it, and it's like, oh no, hang on, actually there's actually a little bit more of a wiggle room than you feel at first. So it's worth breaking that stuff down. So.
And if you think about it this way, you have the belief in naturalism, you go through this theoretical virtue kind of worldview comparison showing that there's unnecessary commitments on one view. Well, guess what that serves as for you? It's a reason to believe it. It's justification. And so it might be a weaker form, granted, but it's the attempt that I wouldn't mind, having a theist come from that perspective. I have friends that do, as long as that they're trying, as long as we're humble about the limits of this type of reasoning that'll get us. We have to go, hey, look, at the end of the day, you have to be humble and say that you could just be wrong. I mean, you're going off of a methodology that can do a lot, but not everything, because philosophy, we haven't unfortunately gotten there outside of developing science. So
yeah, right.
But so we got Kevin in Georgia, my home state.
Hey.
How you doing, Kevin? You want to talk about God's how you doing? Pronouns are he, him. You want to talk about God's morality is better than the morality people conceived of? Is that right?
Not exactly. I guess I have a question, and based on the answer would lead me down the path what I was going for. So if I could start there really quickly.
Sure, go for it.
Something I hear echoed a lot is, that our morality is better than God's. People, like if we were to just ask ourselves questions, do we think this is right, this is wrong? And it seems like, if we seem to be, I don't know, our head is on straight more than God's is, what do we really need them for? And my question, I guess, is where does that come from? Like that process of thinking, we don't really need God, or, whatever definition of what his morality would be described as if we have our own. What justifies that?
Yeah. Can I jump on this a little bit? So
yeah,
for me, one of the avenues of understanding more about the world that really helped me drop all of my faith claims and all the belief in the supernatural and religion stuff was actually going about looking up different philosophical moral systems. Okay. So it was me spending quite a lot of time reading through, deontological ethics, right? Learning about all this stuff with Kant. There's actually a series of letters that a woman named Maria von Herbert wrote to Kant while he was still alive. And I think you find out some of the most fascinating stuff about Kant's views on morality through those letters. They're really, really interesting. But anyway, that understanding for me that there actually is a way to get justification for doing certain actions or not doing other actions that has absolutely nothing to do with God. That was a huge moment for me, Kevin, because up until that point, I had just never gone through the process of even thinking about it. And what I soon came to realize was the bullet points that are laid out for me in, say, I don't know, something that Jeremy Bentham wrote, for like a basic utilitarianism. Okay. Nothing crazy, nothing super deep here, but those bullet points, when compared to the bullet points that I was getting repeatedly from the Bible, I see more benefit and less harm in that framework. And for me, when I started to understand this idea of, pleasure versus pain, harm versus beneficence, I started to see that in every single moral system out there. And this is purely just from me, Kevin. I'm not saying anybody else thinks this way, but for me, I see that calculation played out in every moral system, period, end of sentence. The only reason to do the things that God wants you to do is for the benefit that God will give you afterwards, or to avoid the harm that God will inflict on you. And so because I started seeing that pattern everywhere, what that said to me was, hey, maybe I need to reevaluate this system. And in the process of doing that, I look at a moral system that does not talk about God whatsoever, and I look at all the moral systems I've ever seen that have God to do with it. And these come out with way less harm and way more benefit, time and time and time again. And I think that's just something that a lot of us have done. It's not very hard, in my opinion, to go from, I think smashing babies' heads on rocks is bad, to any conscious agent, any moral actor that does that is by definition bad. God did that, done and done. So hopefully that's something for us to at least start off with.
Well, no, I follow that 100%, and
Cool.
so that brings me to where I have the overall dilemma, which is why I called.
Mhm.
I can see where when you're putting that together, you're talking about less harm. So if I made a scenario and I said, okay, let's just say I put the 10 Commandments down right now, okay, and I try to take a moral path that has nothing to do with God, and I walked outside and I said, hey, I'm going to spend 365 days asking every lovely human being what is okay and what's not okay. Can I slap a woman in the face on the side of the street? Can I crash my car at somebody when I get mad? Just, a bunch of questions that I feel like I would get some pretty decent answers for most of us out here anyway. And I came at the end of the day at 365 days and I said, okay, I think I know how to be a pretty good human being from what people have told me. Where I have an issue with that is in 200 years, aren't all those answers going to be different in the next 1,000? And my favorite
not necessarily.
subject.
Hang on real quick.
Well,
real quick, Kevin, because I think it's important, and I'll let you finish up, I swear. But I think we can just undermine that very quickly, because not necessarily. Because if we're assuming that life has these basic attributes that exist currently, that we ascribe to it, if we're assuming that those attributes will continue, because that's the most reasonable assumption based on the data that we have currently, it's not that definite life will always be like this. But if we are saying, based on the evidence that we have currently, it is reasonable to assume that in the future, life will also have similar attributes, then I don't see why those particular aspects of the moral system would necessarily change, right? If we're just assuming that cells do what cells do 500 years from now, which seems to be logical because they did it a bunch in the past, and that's all the evidence we've got, right? So they wouldn't necessarily change, but some things could based on what we discover, right?
Okay. And that leads me to the examples. And if I don't have to go back 100 years, and I don't have to bring out the long laundry list. You guys are pretty educated, but I'm thinking to myself, there were some pretty horrendous things that were okay 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And even though I am a pro-lifer, I would never make a law about that. And here we are, even in 2023, they're trying to make laws regarding that. Regardless of how I feel, I wouldn't take those steps, but they are. And I don't think we really
Kevin, how is
saw
this,
that coming.
how is this any different though with your view, potentially with because if God just commands that it's okay to throw a child off a building, do you is it going to be good in virtue of his commands from your view, or because I seem like the thing that you're pointing out's a problem might just be the exact problem on your view, right?
And we actually have good evidence to suggest that God has done that changey thing, right? That's the whole reason that slavery's in the Bible, is because God just couldn't get rid of it. He had to work it down slowly over the years to work with the people. So we've already got evidence that your system really hardcore changes.
Yeah. So Kevin, do you think that his commands, what is good is in virtue of his commands?
Instead of sugarcoating it, just how I've been brought up, of course not. I've got a lot of issues with what God asked and what's in the Bible. Even though I'm definitely a theist, I'm not going to make excuses for a lot of the things that I
appreciate your honesty.
Knee jerk. Okay, so but
I appreciate
that makes me uncomfortable. Thank you, and I want you guys. I guess this is the crux of my question here. What makes me sit very uncomfortable is, all right, I don't have confidence in us, because I feel like we have shown to not have confidence in us. And even though, and you guys might appreciate this is a little thing that I've created. I always tell my wife, we're not in a movie. This is a time we live in right now. And if we could jump in a time machine and listen to the conversations that people had in the past, we'd probably sit there and be like, you guys are fucking crazy. But they didn't think so.
Yeah.
And I don't think so, but I worry, how reliable are we to really assume that it's going to stay like that? And that's where I lose confidence in us. And although God...
Let me ask this. Do you think, Kevin, do you think tomorrow multiplication will be different? Like, do you think the basics of mathematics will be the same tomorrow?
I believe so.
Yeah, me too. Do you think you have a good reason to accept that? Do you think there's at least something that you can kind of, maybe not perfect, but hey, it's probably 1 + 1 is still going to equal 2 tomorrow, and 500 years in the future? Does that seem reasonable to you?
It just seems very hard to change that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. And to go back to kind of where we were talking with the previous caller, right, about those most fundamental things that we're assuming. You and I are assuming that we don't have any choice, Kevin. We can't get out of that. We're kind of stuck in that boat where we just have to assume some things, right, about the laws of logic. We just can't do anything but. And I think what we've done over the millennia as intelligent social creatures is we have really honed in on those basics to such a degree that we really are pretty knowledgeable, and we do really have a good understanding. And it's not to say that we can't discover new things tomorrow. Abso-freaking-lutely possible. But as the years go on, and as all of the consequences from these assumptions continue to play out time and time and time again, that kind of says to me that the likelihood of such a radical change of absolutely everything probably isn't likely, whether it's 5 years from now or 5,000 years from now. Because probably in 5,000 years from now, maybe they don't do call-in shows anymore on YouTube, but probably there's going to be a conversation where somebody says, but how do you know you're not a brain in a vat? Because we've been having that conversation for 2,000 years, And so I guess for me, it's that, hey, yeah, we could find out something tomorrow that really does shake up biology for us, but it's more and more unlikely as we continue stacking the evidence that we're going to find something that just radically changes absolutely everything, and that all of our past information was just flat out wrong. Does that kind of make sense? It's like we've just stacked up so much on this side now that to undermine all of that would be so radical of a shift that it seems to me the less likely option.
I follow that. Ultimately you're saying we've got a couple of things on this fundamental checklist that we kind of know, all right, like you said, we're probably not going to throw babies off of roofs in 400 years. Right. I would hope you're right.
Yeah, me too.
Ultimately,
me too.
Well,
that's just something. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I didn't want to interrupt you. I apologize.
No, all I was saying was that's something I just toggle with, is that when I look through the past, I worry, could we go on a downward spiral again? And if so, when we hear ourselves talk, how much confidence do we have? But, if you're going to take the approach that, listen, we've kind of got these baseline things together, then, I would agree with that. I would hope it stays that way, but sure.
Yeah. And so this is, I guess, the thing that I'm thinking of that maybe, I don't know if this might matter to you or not, but this might piggyback off secular in a sense. I think there's a reason that secular and myself might be convinced that you won't get this radical shift, at least in opinion, or that the progression we're going to, it seems have a pretty strict pattern, at least right at this point, that we're identifying. And one of the reasons I think that this is the case is because what we do is when we look at an action like a baby being thrown off a building, we look at the intrinsic relations that are involved with that, the things that are intrinsic to that, like the suffering, the relationships that are tarnished, the trauma, right? All of this stuff, people that can't finish their projects because of the trauma, right? All of this cascading effect. Now, compare that though to the view that you might be sympathetic towards, which is going to be that God, all God really needs to do is come up to any set of anything, any descriptive set of whatever, sprinkle good salt or bad salt on it, and that thing is what it is. There's the factors in play for the good and the evil in that view aren't intrinsic to the actions, right? Because if they were, that's all you would need, right? And so it's your concern seems to be flipped in a sense that on your view, it's like it's only good if God does this kind of imbuing onto something, right? Like some extrinsic type of relation to it. Whereas that seems absurd because you can make anything good or anything bad. And now we're talking about like this mafioso, boss mob, obedience to whatever it is, as opposed to looking at the intrinsic actions, the relations between those, and then saying, yeah, that's wrong. Like, I'm not a moral realist, but I'm under the presumption that it's always wrong, no matter what, to hurt a child, right? That's my view. It's my subjective view. I'd love to find out that there's a fact in the world that makes that true. But the thing that's important about the subjectivist in that case is they're at least looking at the intrinsic actions and making a type of analysis given that. Whereas the other one, it's like tomorrow it could just new salt sprinkled and the analysis never really mattered, right? Because now it's the opposite. And so
I get it.
I don't know if that makes sense.
I think
Kevin.
that's a good point. I think that was a good point.
No, it makes perfect sense. There is a lot of, and I've heard you talk about that before, Jmike. Is ultimately that you would just have to call that good if God leaves it at that, and that's just what it is. Even if it means there are repercussions that are going to come with it that could affect many people in a negative way, but ultimately you believe God is good all the time. So that is what it is. There's no passing that. And listen, I appreciate the time you guys have given me. I'm not going to hold you anymore. I just want to say thanks, because I don't
thank you.
get the opportunity to have these kind of conversations. And although I believe what I believe, if I've got a question, I just want it answered. But what I'm not going to do is make excuses for what I believe. And I do wish most theists would stop doing that. If we're following
Kevin, you have called so many times. You've called so many times, and I've loved every conversation. You're genuinely my favorite caller that calls in that's on the opposite side. I genuinely appreciate you, because you do see you're looking at these different ways. We're both trying to have a productive conversation. I love that. That's a great thing. If you were ever in the metro Atlanta area and you wanted to grab a drink, I'd love to talk about this stuff in person, man. So I genuinely like talking to you as well. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. We can make that happen one day. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Awesome, man.
All right, man. Have a good one. And let me you want to say something? I'm gonna get to some announcements here, but I don't want to cut you off.
That's okay. I'll just say something real quick, and then we've actually got a couple of super chats I'm going to read, if that's
exactly.
Okay.
We will.
But I think, I just want to just second what you just said about that being such a wonderful call, and I think that is so freaking important. We can have good conversations like that, folks, and it's valuable because those are the conversations where we actually make progress, I think. Because
Kevin's given pushback in the past and we've disagreed, and it's not like it's just like, I'm going to agree with you. There's pushback in the calls in it, but it's a really good, healthy way to do that. I like disagreeing with people in all sorts of fashions, but that's definitely my favorite. That's my favorite way to do it.
I agree. I agree. Well, let me shout out some of these wonderful people real quick. We've got $5 from Mel Tree Fitty. She says, 2 of my favorite people. I love you, Mel. I have gotten to meet her. That was wonderful. And we've got $9.99 from John Doan. Says, good to meet you, SR and AZ. It was good to meet you too. I had a fun time out there. And it was good to meet a bunch of other heathens at the AA convention. I think there might have been a typo, but I need to meet Jmike someday. And then hashtag AP666. Keep up the great work. So that is awesome. 2 more. We've got one $4.99 from Greg Markowski, another fellow that I've actually met, a good guy.
Nice.
Double dose of SR with a dash of
Well, I met
Jmike.
Mel, so we both met 2 people.
That's
in
good.
this.
That's
Yes.
good. And Mel
Boom.
is pretty cool. I think
Yeah,
it's fair.
Mel's awesome.
She'll take that. She'll take that.
Mel's one of my really, really good friends.
She's
So
wonderful. And finally, another wonderful person, 666 from the lovely Hell's Bells. Hi, Jmike and SR. Why is religion harmful in your personal opinion? You got a quick.
That's a.
I know.
Well,
I know.
I would just say anything that structures a system in such a way that has a belief system and not really like a system of knowledge that allows people to, in the masses, believe some insane things that normally sane people couldn't because of such a structure. That kind of allows them to forego their own better judgment. That's one of the things that I have the biggest issue with. It's the old adage that's been expressed that I just agree with, that I have really good friends that are religious, but and I don't see a lot of people I don't see, at least publicly, say things that I think are horrible. I don't know what they do in their private lives, hopefully not, but but I have seen the other side where there's these people that I'm like, dude, you're so much better than that. I know you don't think that,
What's the Voltaire quote? I probably butcher it, but it's something along the lines of like, if you want to convince people to commit atrocities, you first must convince them of absurdities. And I just think that's abso-freaking-lutely.
So I do want to mention out, since I should have thrown this in there later. I got to this late, so apologies. But we do have podcasts and Patreon for the podcasts. If this is so much friggin' hair for you, and you're just like, I don't want it, it's in my food, it's all over the place, get out of here, blah, then you can go to tiny.cc/AEN podcasts, because we have a channel that houses all of the shows of the ACA in audio podcast form. Again, you can visit tiny.cc/AEN podcasts. From there, you can listen to all of the shows housed by the ACA. And you can also support us on Patreon. And so that will be tiny.cc/PatreonAXP. And I do want to get into merch if we can real quick. We do have merch, and this month we have a special. We're bringing back the top 3 designs as rated by the fans for the month of May only. If you missed out on getting one of these before, here is your chance. But you need to hurry, because they are only going to be around until the end of the month. You can use the discount code favorites for a 10% discount. Just visit tiny.cc/merchaca to get them now. And then finally, I would like to give a nice shout out to the people that just put the graphics and all the stuff on the screen. The lovely crew. We have some weak high. Oh, there we go. Kitty deserves a much bigger applause from both of us.
Yeah,
too.
seriously.
So we won't kill the ears of the listeners. By doing that. So rest in peace, headphone users. All right, let's take a few more calls. We have another theist on the line. I think we've had conversations with a slave of Christ. Wants to talk about if there's a God, why is there so much evil? Pronouns are he, him. What is going on?
I could probably answer that question.
Can I just call you like sock or something? I think I said that last time. I don't know if I'm going to say slave of
Christ. I don't know. Can I call you of? I'm sorry.
Yeah. How's it going, bud?
How are you guys?
I'm okay.
What you got for us?
So last time, Forrest Balkai and Jmike were on the Atheist Experience. And
man, you're gonna have to get off. You're gonna have to get away from the road.
Yeah, please. That's just a safety thing, but also the audio too.
Yeah, exactly. I cannot have somebody on the show that's risking danger. Can you tell me that you are away from the road? Because I'm gonna hang up on you if I'm not gonna get that affirmation. Sorry,
I'm not driving or anything. I'm just like in a park. Okay. So the park is kind of like near to the road.
Okay.
All right. If the noise becomes distracting, I'm gonna have to either mute you or remove you. I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
So I have a feeling that this is gonna be a thing.
Yeah. Okay. So
basically you're asking one question. If there's like a God, why did he create hell to human beings, and why are there like evil things? And
I have an answer to
basically,
that as a non-believer,
the-
because
the-
I don't normally ask that question.
That wasn't even
question-
my question. I don't
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
My question was why? Well, you go ahead, right?
Well, I think you're probably going to go into the only time I bring that up is when somebody says that their God is all good, right, or all loving or something. It's
there
like,
we go.
But yeah, like why? If there's a God, why is there so much evil? Cause God's a dick. He's real. He just also is a dick. Or there's also the fun one that I love, which is God is inept. I really like that one. God is real and does actually want to do good things, but is essentially a 1-year-old without the ability to control anything and just screws everything up constantly, So like, I mean, I have answers to both of those. I still don't believe because I don't think that is, worth it. But I mean, like I can answer that question. So.
Well, yeah, let me like if you talked to me on the last one, what I probably expressed to you, I don't know if it is, but the health thing it wouldn't be something I would have mentioned. I don't think. I would have asked you, do you think God is infallible? Do you think that he can fail with respect to his intentions or not?
No, because I think everything that happens in the world is part of God's plan. So everything is like predetermined by God to happen.
Well, then there's
so
no
nothing
bad
happens outside of God's will. That's why we don't have free will when we are on the earth.
Great. So does God intend for there to be evil or sin in the world?
Of course, because if there's no evil,
he does intend for it.
Why would he?
I mean,
I'm sorry.
You said he does intend for it.
Of course, because everything that is created by God.
And is he an all good being and a rational agent, a rational being?
No, I don't think that, because I think there's like a.
So you believe in an irrational God that creates evil? That's the God that you believe in right now? What is going on?
Yeah. Seriously, Sock, if that's really where you're coming to on this, you have to recognize that just from the jump, like how weak that is, right? Like you can see why Jmike and I are getting more and more confused with these answers, because these are basic questions that almost exclusively theists answer in the opposite, because when you answer in the way that you have, it just kind of makes your whole system look pretty ridiculous on the
Well, there's
face.
no evil in his system, clearly, because if God intends for evil and has a reason, prevailing reasons to allow evil, right, and it serves for like the greater good, then there's no evil in your view, right? Because what sense does it say to be like, this evil thing leaded to the greater good? It makes no sense, right?
Yeah, because without that evil, we wouldn't have gotten to the greater good, which God purposefully put there, and because he's infallible, right? Like he always does the thing, so. Yeah, how is there ever any badness? How is there ever any evil in that view?
Yeah, so explain to us how you don't either have a contradiction or no evil in your view, because it's either the case that God permits the impermissible, which is a contradiction, or it's the case that there really isn't anything impermissible. Those are just good things. Which one is it?
Well, what I think is, I don't say that everything that he does is like good or perfect or anything. The most that I'm convinced of is like election. So God elects a certain people to show mercy and grace, and God creates certain people, to be damned and stuff.
Okay, well, so if you don't think God is all good and he's evil, then you don't. There's not a problem of evil on the view, because if you just don't think, if you think God, like Rarity said, if you think he's a dick, there's not a problem. Why would there be a problem of any evil? Because
he's a bad guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, there's bad stuff. He's kind of a bad guy. Like sometimes he does some good things. Don't get me wrong. But because he's also a bad guy, like you're not surprised when the villain, double crosses somebody. You're just like, yeah, that's what we would expect based on his character.
Yeah. So do you take commands from the villain? Is that your view? Your view is that you take commands from the mob boss? Is that really what you're telling us? Just openly?
No, I do believe that God is all good to his chosen people. So
now you're contradicting yourself.
People.
Now you're contradicting
yourself. Because I think that a certain people are like created to destruction, and certain people are created to see God's love and mercy and stuff.
Yeah, but
So
when you say the word destruction, Sock, are you thinking of that in kind of a negative connotation? Like, do you see destruction as being a positive, beneficial thing? Or do you see it as being like a not so good thing? In that view there, okay, where you've got the elect and then you've got those damned to hell people, do you think that one of those boats is better than the other? Because if you do, I'll go ahead and tell you what J. Mike was saying earlier, which is you're holding a contradictory stance because you couldn't possibly believe that God had purposefully created the people for the bad stuff so that there is an overall good,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't make sense.
What
It just
ought not
doesn't.
be done, secular, is what ought be done is the thing that ought not be
That
done.
ought not be, right?
Yeah,
It's
that's
right.
what it is.
Do you see where we're coming from here?
yeah, I understand what you're saying. I understand. I totally understand, but I don't totally agree.
So okay, so how do you
because
resolve? We
first of
identified a contradiction. So how do you resolve it?
Right.
how I resolve it is like I think that humanity is not good in general. So the
But we
logical
would
thing or
have to
the
be under
justice.
your view. That's what we're saying, is that it's an even deeper issue with the stances that you just laid out, Sock. It's not just a matter of whether or not human beings themselves are kind of dicks as well. Like, that isn't the problem. It's that in your worldview, potentially, either the dickish behavior just doesn't exist at all, or somehow God is like incapable of not doing the right thing, but also constantly does the wrong thing. Like, do you see what we're saying? It's
He's
not
perfect, but does imperfect things.
right. It's not just as simple as like, oh, people are fallen, because none of it, it's a deeper issue than that. There's something more core to the belief that you've laid out that has the problem.
So what I would try to see is like there's J Mike, right? So he's good to some people. He gives out gifts. He's generally compassionate towards others. But let's say that he
Sound like Santa
actually
Claus right
tortures
now.
people in the basement, right? He tortures other people who at the basement. So you're the same guy. So if I'm receiving only positive things, I'll probably say that J Mike is good because I've seen your goodness. But those people who are at
So wait, hold on. So God has. Wait, I'm so confused. All God has to do is successfully reveal to you the good stuff, but behind closed doors, he can just be this dick, and you're gonna think he's an all good. I don't. This makes no sense to me. I don't get this.
And again, you're still not addressing the core. You're still not addressing the core thing that J Mike had pointed out a minute ago. And I think the reason that you might be struggling with this is because you've already gone through the acceptance process, the internalization of saying, well, God has to exist. There are certain attributes about God that I am freaking solid confident on. And so now all of this other stuff that is around me, I have to figure out how that fits back into this original viewpoint. Because the core of the issue is something that it is so ingrained into your belief system here, Sock, that all of these other little things don't matter. Like what you just said about like that example of like J Mike doing good things in one instance and bad things in the other and only seeing the good. That has absolutely nothing to do with the problem
Really
on
doesn't.
your view, man. Like it just doesn't. Like, is it interesting? Sure, fine, whatever. Is it kind of confusing to both of us? Yes, absolutely. We both raised our eyebrows, but it doesn't address the problem.
Which I'm actually confused. Like, do you think God's an all good God or not? Yes or no? Let's just be clear and concise, because you've said like multiple things twice. Like he came in free will, now elect. So now I'm like really confused. Like you've made like a bowl of contradictionos for breakfast or something. I just don't really get it.
Now made with real fallacies.
Sorry. So like getting back to the thought experiment, what I'm saying is like,
well, we can do that, but like that's kind of like, yeah. So we give you a chance. I asked the question. Do you remember what the question was?
God is all. Okay.
Yeah, you're still going. I asked you a question.
God is all good.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Shh. I asked you a question. Do you remember what the question was?
Yes, you said that is God is all good or not.
I was asking you. Yeah.
Uh,
And then you proceeded to not answer me. So what is the answer?
God is all good if you are chosen, and He's not all good if you're not chosen. That's the direct answer.
Okay, so he is both all good. So wait, hold on. Right before the show, I was talking about a spiritualist who said that there's sponges that are 100% silicon. It's like it's just that would just be silicon, right? It wouldn't be a sponge; it'd be just silicon. And you're saying it's both the case that he's 100% good and both the case that he's not 100% good. You do realize that now we have just stacked pancakes of contradictions at this point, right?
Yeah. It's literally.
I mean.
Yeah, Sock, it's the issue is like back to that, example you were using with Jmike, right? It's not that Jmike actually is all good in that example. It's that to the particular moral agent that Jmike is engaging in good behavior with, that person feels as if Jmike is, right? Jmike appears to be, but he is not in that scenario all good, because if so, he can't ever do any of the bad. And if you have something, a moral agent, a consciousness that is 100% goodness, but somehow also like 6% bad, you see, it just doesn't, like the cup has overflowed and we are now pouring water onto the ground. Does that, you see where the issue kind of lies?
You're on an epistemology about how they know. Not the ontology.
But you're still not like convincing me though. Like you're still not.
I'm not convincing you that you've literally made a contradiction by saying that God permits the impermissible, or God is 100% good and 100% bad. Like,
yeah, hold on. Do you agree that if your view is contradictory, is contradictory, that it's false? Do you agree with that? Like if somebody, great. So if we've identified several contradictions in the view and you're not convinced, are you not convinced that we've identified the contradiction? Because I'd be happy to identify them for you again.
What I don't agree with is like it's a contradiction, because again here I'm trying to give out like a scenario where he loves a certain people and he hates a certain people.
Then he's not all good.
It's like what.
You can't say, this is why it's confusing for me in Rarity, and why we're like, when on one side we're thinking you're saying something, so we're applying objections there. Then you lean this way and we're like, okay, I think he's going that way, so we're applying objections here. And it's getting confusing for all of us, even presumably the viewers, right?
Yeah, has to be.
So if it's either the case that he's all good or not, now it seems like you're on the disjunct that he's not all good, right? If that's the case, then that goes back to what Secular had said. He's just a dick. If you have a God that just is a dick and he's a dick for reasons that he has and he wants to be a dick, then okay, that explains why there's evil in your view. Why would it be puzzling that there's a mafia boss who wants to like kill its creation or do something like evil? Why would we be like, oh, okay, well, like, oh, that's evil. Like, or that's like, oh, like, how did the evil get here? Oh, well, probably because of the evil dick.
Right. You flat out said that God specifically makes people that are going to have all the bad stuff, the damned, the destruction, all of that stuff. Like that's your answer. If God's real, why is there evil? Well, because he creates people for the bad stuff. Like it's not.
We're gonna have to move on to other callers because
I'm not sure where to go.
I appreciate it. I would just go back over that call and listen to it. I'm gonna prevent you from stacking exponential contradictions to your view. Yeah. I'm gonna protect you.
Yeah, it started to get pretty high after a while. I saw. So.
Yeah, it's all good. I do want to mention that if you're in the Austin area around May 28th. We are broadcasting live from the Free Thought Library. So join us for Talk Heathen, which will be hosted by Forrest Valkai and a special guest. Stay tuned to find out. And the Atheist Experience will be hosted by Forrest Valkai and Jim Barrows. The doors will open at noon. We hope to see you there. Make sure you find a good place to park, a legal place to park. Do you have Collins? Do you want to? I mean,
yeah.
I think we have one theist on, so I guess I'll know your choice probably.
Let's take Jamal.
Yeah. All right, I'll pop him in then. All right, Jamal, pronouns he, him, wants to talk about finding the truth about God and having a definitive position. So
That's
it's a
what we're
good
here for,
topic.
Jamal.
Yeah. What a coincidence.
How are you all doing?
Good, good. How
I'm
are
doing
you?
really good. I think I've said 3 answers to the show. It's
Good.
like, okay, I'm getting good. Now I'm really good. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good.
one of
That's a positive
that is-
trajectory. That's what we want.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So before we start, we have to define our positions. I'm a Muslim. For you all,
Okay.
what do you define yourself? You define yourself atheist, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So I don't know if you're really atheist. Why do I say that?
Okay. I don't know that you're
So
really a
I'll
Muslim.
tell
If
you-
you're
I'll
using
tell
a
you-
phone right now, Jamal,
tell
you
you why.
probably couldn't be a true Quranic-based Muslim. I feel confident.
you
So
what.
let's just,
I'll tell you
instead
what.
of saying stupid, mean things like that, let's just lay out our positions, right?
No,
'Cause,
I'm-
like, we
and I'm
could
not-
both
I'm
go
not
back and
criticizing you.
forth.
I'm not criticizing you.
I mean, you
But I'm
just
just
said
saying,
that
maybe
you
you're
don't think that
constructive.
we're atheists, which is just a really weird thing to say to start off a good conversation. So I think we can start this all over again. Hey, folks, we got Jamal, he, him from California, wants to talk about God and having definite positions. Hey, Jamal, how are you today? Jmike and I are doing swell.
Well, you know what? Okay. So first of all, I'm going to talk about just my belief in terms of God exists. So for you, what would show you that God exists? What kind of proof would you want?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
You want, like,
I would
in your face
want something
right?
in the exact same epistemological framework that I do when it comes to everything else that I accept as true.
Yeah. I mean, there
I don't
seems
use a different system.
You want to be able to
See-
see. You want to be able to see God. You want to be able to see. Correct.
Nope. I didn't say any of that. I don't
But
see
what-
cells. I don't
what-
see atoms,
what-
but I accept that they exist.
Right, but you want to be able to see something
No.
that tells you,
No.
what, there is God.
No,
Some kind of proof.
What?
You need proof.
I need proof.
Yeah, I
But
don't think Rarity is going to shy away from the methodology that we're saying. You can give some. I did at the beginning of the show an abductive. That's not going to prove anything, right? It's just going to show why I have reasons to think it's true over the
Right.
other. You could do a deductive thing with a deductive argument, right? Some a priori argument or something like that, which is supposed to guarantee the conclusion of the truth of the guarantee the truth of the conclusion if the premises are true and it's a
Right.
formally valid argument. Or you could have some type of novel predictions, right? That seems to be the best, is have predictive expectation given your hypothesis. So there's options.
Yeah, same stuff I use for everything else.
Do you have? Let's start with one. Does the God hypothesis make any novel predictions?
Well, the way I look at it, like, I do research and I want something that I feel.
Well, that was a
has
question.
proof.
That was a question. Does the God hypothesis, under your view, make novel predictions? What I mean by novel is like new predictions in the future, predictive expectation and success.
Right.
Does your view do
I
that?
mean, in the Quran, we have that. We have some. We have a lot in the Quran.
Name
that,
one. Name one in the Quran.
So
Name one.
predictions. First of all, like, to answer that, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
We could look at things that happened in the past that were predicted that they ended up
Like what? Are you going to talk about the high buildings? Are you going to talk about tall buildings? Like what? Give us the example,
I'm talking
Jamal.
about embryo. I'm talking about the embryo. I'm talking about
Embryo. Oh my gosh.
So you're saying, just so that I'm clear, you're
the
saying
worst one to
that
do.
right now, the biological understanding for how an embryo starts to exist is that it forms as a blood clot from semen that comes from between the backbone and the ribs. That's what you're using as your example. I just want to make sure, not even close to criticizing it yet, Jamal, just genuinely want to know if that's what you're saying is your example.
No. That's not what I'm talking about. And that part has
The
been.
Quran says
so
an
many
embryo
ways.
starts from a blood clot and that
so-
semen comes from between the backbone
I'm not
and the
even-
ribs.
I'm not
Is
even
that
talking
true
about
or false?
that. I'm talking
You
about.
said embryology,
I'm talking
right?
about but I'm talking about the forming of the fetus is described in the Quran.
Yeah,
and
I'm gonna
As
read.
coming from a blood clot.
All right.
No,
I'm
I'm
gonna
not
do
even
this.
talking about that part. I'm saying,
I'm gonna. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to mute you. I was gonna mute you. Can you give the verse?
Yeah. Give the surah an ayah.
Do your research. Do your research on that. Do your
I
research.
have it pulled. I have it pulled up
Maya.
in front of me right now. I want to make sure it's the one that you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
But like I said, that part, sir, is at that time. I mean, for even today, like you would need an electromagnetic microscope to actually see it.
All right, Jamal, I have muted you.
Yes.
I'm going to read it.
Yes.
We created man from an extract of clay. Then we made him as a drop in a place of settlement firmly fixed. And then we made him a drop into I can't pronounce, but a leak-like structure. And then we made the leech-like structure into a chewed-like substance, right? Which has been referred to as looking like chewed-up gum, is what some people have referred to it as. Then we made the mud guy, I apologize, into bones, and then we clothed the bones with flesh, and then we caused it to grow into another creation. Yeah. Is this the verse
the one
you are referring to? Yes or no? Please be honest. Yes or no?
That's the one I'm talking about. But
cool.
What I'm
saying so nothing secular. So nothing secular said was wrong then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All of that it just laid out is flat out incorrect. Like it's obvious. But
do you realize that part is totally different than you were talking about between? I know that verse too, but you were mentioning.
So, in fairness, Jamal, because I'm a big believer in admitting when somebody says something that is incorrect. And so I'm going to do this as a demonstration and model, and then I'm going to unmute you and I'm going to watch to see how you behave. So the specific surah and ayah about the blood clot is not that specific surah. You are correct. Both 100% exist in the Quran. Okay. So both are wrong, but you're right, Jamal. I actually did point out another mistake in the Quran instead of the one that you're bringing up. Would you like to take an opportunity to admit that the thing that Jmike read doesn't do the thing that you said it does, or?
That's not, how's that incorrect? Prove
how is it incorrect? It literally says it made people from clay, dude. Like, are you pretending, or?
Doesn't resemble a chewed up gum like substance.
Yeah, not in the slightest.
Doesn't come from the backbone. Doesn't form clothing the bones with flesh. Right. None of this is right. If you just ask an embryologist, like, I mean, I don't know, dude, just type it into GPT chat. Be like, hey, does the Quran get the embryology right? And it'll do the thing that does. Well, this is a debate among religious and theological beliefs. It tries to cater around that. At the very end, it'll be very clear to you, because I had to do this the other day when I was like, talking with a Muslim who was all about GPT chat giving answers. And I said, I'll use your source and I will show this. And it says it. It's like, it doesn't. It's very inconsistent with the scientific or modern scientific understanding.
And we started this whole discussion with a novel thing. Nothing in there was novel to begin with. Okay. Nothing in there was novel to begin with. And then on top of that, it's just wrong. Like, that's the problem that you're dealing with right now.
Okay, can I talk?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's amazing to me how, like, when I call, call station, different talks, podcasts, and all that, and I'm told.
Are you going into the
and for some
reason, I know you. This is silly. Look, I'm sorry, but we're. Look, I just have to say this, Jamal. If you truly have read the Quran, then you know about the angels sitting on your shoulders right now that are writing down every bad deed that you're doing. And you know the pain and torture that Allah will inflict upon you, because if you cannot convince me to follow the word of Allah, that is your sin. That's your sin, Jamal. That's what it says. So why not give yourself a better place in heaven? Ramadan is over and you cannot get bonus points for a whole nother year. So come on, stop pretending and stop, just freaking dancing around this. Jmike and I are going to be tortured in hell for eternity under Allah's view. And guess what? You will be there too, unless you can provide some evidence to convince us, because our sins are yours now. That is in the Quran. So let's go, dude. Give us something Don't just I call into shows and blah blah blah. Like, just give us something.
We don't care about the meta.
Yeah,
it's not
come
interesting.
on.
Right. But can I? Okay. So here's what I'll tell you all. That part, it's. I've yet to hear a contradiction that's been officially recognized as
We
false.
just gave you
all
one.
of this seeing angels and God, none of it can be proven false. None of it. So
we have strong inductive evidence that it's false, right?
Yeah.
God
I hope
doesn't
for
mean
your sake,
God didn't
Jamal, I hope for your sake it's freaking wrong. Because again, what I just said is accurate. What I said is right. The reason that you are also going to receive torture and punishment after you die is the same reason that I will. And it's because both of us have gone against the word of Allah. You, as a supposed believer, took this opportunity to allow Jmike and I to sin more. And those sins are on your head. And when your body comes to life in the afterlife, and when the Quran itself comes to life and starts testifying against you, that'll be on you. And that's what I'm saying. Like, we can't even get to a serious point about this belief system because you're not actually doing anything right now. And Jmike and I genuinely want to do this. We are excited to have these discussions. We do not talk about Islam as much on this show as I personally would want to. I think it's a fascinating system of belief. But here we are with an opportunity, with a chance for you to get a better place in heaven. And you choose not to. And I just don't understand, Jamal. Like, just get to something. Just come back on and just say, hey, here's the reason I think proves the existence of my thing. That's it. That's all we want. That's not difficult.
Let me correct you. There has yet to be proven anything that's proven false about the Quran. There's yet to be any.
So once again, you're allowing Jmike and I to do more, and Allah will continue to punish you and torture you for all of eternity. I'm so sorry for that, Jamal. The good news is that system probably is bullshit. But that's your system. You're the one that's failing in it. And that just frustrates me.
In Islam, sir, in Islam, everybody's responsible for themselves. I don't have to overpreach.
That's not true. That is flat out not freaking true. You absolutely know. You are either being flat out dishonest or you have never read through the Quran. You absolutely know the Quran places other people's burdens on you. It abso-freaking-lutely does. And that's the reason that Allah put those two angels on your shoulder, is to make sure that you're constantly adhering to the system that he laid out. And again, instead of taking the opportunity to just provide us with something, you took the opportunity to make some BS apologist argument where you're just twisting crap around again, dude. Like, if you don't think that's true, fine. Fuck it. Move the fuck on, man. And just actually do the thing that you supposedly claimed that you were going to do. Because otherwise what you're doing is you're taking up space for another person that could engage with us honestly. You're taking up space from somebody like Kevin, a person where we can actually have good progress with, and we'll just bite the freaking bullet on both sides. Jmike and I did that. Kevin did that. So let's do that, man. Like, has anything in the Quran ever been proven false? Fuck it, dude. I'll give you all your toys. We'll just say no, that it hasn't. Now just prove it. Now just actually prove it true. That's what we're looking for.
There's like two kind of issues, Jamal. Like, one's going to be if something is wrong, if you hold this claim. I've said this on the show when some Muslims have called in where they're like, hey, well, like, what do you think about Islam? Or like, what do you think about it being proved false? Or I'm like, well, I always kind of say I wish I would do more as I do with like New Testament studies and stuff like that. And I'm getting more into that. But it's Muslims that come to me and say, nothing can be wrong about the Quran. Like, there couldn't be a single error. And when you make that claim and then we point it out to you, what ends up happening is, well, no, it doesn't prove it. Doesn't. Well, first off, we're using science, strong inductive case that it's wrong. That's what we're looking for, right? You have a book says a thing versus independent actual studies and evidence that we're doing. And then Rarity is realizing that what you're doing is just, you're not going to accept that. You're still going to say it's not without error. And so now he's going to give you all the toys to play with. and present some actual evidence. Because the fact that me and Rarity could, just for the sake of the argument, agree that all of the like scientific claims were correct, it doesn't logically follow that Islam is true. Right. It just doesn't logically follow. It would be like saying like, yeah, go ahead. I mean, but yes,
Okay.
do you actually have anything to provide?
Yeah. Okay. You want legitimacy. You want people to see you as legitimate. People, the viewers, to see you as legitimate.
I don't want
why
more
are you
books
bringing
as
up
a
this
thing.
information?
That's all.
I know, but why are you bringing this information that I need to preach to people and I have this angel, or else I'm going to go to hell if I don't?
Are you not a Muslim, Jamal? I mean, if you're not a Muslim, that's fine. But honestly, again, I'll say this, and I'll say this so fucking clear. I hope for your sake, Jamal, that your system is fucking wrong. I hope that for your sake. And the reason that I hope that is because you are doing such a piss poor job, and your all-powerful deity is going to punish you for that. Now, again, I feel pretty confident that all of that is bullshit. Okay. But again, for your sake, you better hope it's not real, because you've done a terrible job. And it's frustrating because I don't like getting heated like this. But I get heated when we're having a conversation that actually has some nuance and specificity to it. And two individuals are on the opposite sides of that nuance and specificity. And one side is genuinely coming and saying, I'll put all my cards on the table, you look at them, and let's discuss together. And the other side wants to just hold their freaking cards to themselves and pretend that it's not the case. And it's just like, dude, like, we're here.
I wasn't going to interrupt your beautiful rant, but I had to drop him because I just felt like the circle of not actually getting anywhere with that was.
I got a little heated. And that's
no,
fine.
you're fine. I just when the response comes back, and then as I ask a question or say something, and he wants to go back to the thing you said a little while ago, it's like this isn't going to be productive if you're not going to focus on the content. So I do
I think it's reasonable.
Yeah, I didn't. So apologies to you or the audience, but I didn't find that to be for him to be.
No, and look, Jamal, call us back. Jamal, call us back. Okay. Next time Jmike's on, when I'm on Talk Heathen again, seriously, call us back, because I want to have this discussion with you. If you're not going to come and play the game, just like the rest of us are, that's what we're here to do. We're supposed to be here playing Monopoly, and then halfway through, you just want to grab a bunch of checkers and just start putting them on the board. And I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Well, he doesn't think you exists because you're an atheist. So we're gonna go to. I'm gonna try to fit as many as we can. We only got a few minutes, but I think some of these we can knock out pretty quick. I'm gonna go to Mary in Florida. Pronouns are she, her. Wants to ask me about steel manning versus straw manning. It's a good question. How's it going?
Hey, I'm good. How are y'all doing?
Pretty good. Great.
Yes, I had a couple of logical fallacies. I'm just learning about them. I know y'all can't get into politics, but I watched a video of Trump committing like 15 logical fallacies in 3 minutes. And it was awesome. But
sure.
What is the meaning of the ought is argument? I'm not clear.
Oh, okay. Wow, you went straight for the jugular, Mary. You went straight to the. Yeah, this is
I didn't know that.
Well, so this is it's also referred to as, I think on my shirt, Hume somewhere on there. If you see, yeah, there we go, David Hume right there. If I can figure out how to move, not flicking everybody off, I swear.
Okay.
David Hume he's a Scottish philosopher. He had what's called Hume's guillotine, right? So it's kind of this idea that you can't get evaluative statements. So what I mean by that is like what you should do, right? Like what I ought do from mere is statements. So an example that I can give is like, and by the way, I don't smoke cigarettes, but I'm just going to use this example. Jmike smokes cigarettes, right? That's a descriptive premise. Smoking cigarettes damages the lungs. That's a descriptive premise. Conclusion, therefore, Jmike ought not smoke cigarettes. Now, the reason what the is ought is that you can't get purely non-evaluative statements, like descriptive statements, right, that don't concern themselves with goals, they're just a description. You can't use those and somehow smuggle in a value into the conclusion. You can't just all of a sudden be like, oh, okay, smoking cigarettes causes cancer or whatever. Therefore, Jmike shouldn't smoke cigarettes. That might sound like it follows, but it doesn't, because it assumes that my value is that I don't want to get cancer. I don't want to die. I mean, maybe I just really value cigarettes, and I'm only going to live on this earth so long as I smoke them, right? Maybe I'm okay with it being the one that takes me out. The whole point is that you can't derive an ought from an is. You can't go from cats are cute, cats like fluffy things, therefore philosophers do philosophy. It's the same type of gap, right? They're just so unrelated that you have to, the way that you would want to make it valid, a way for it to work, to make the argument work, is be like, Jmike smokes cigarettes, cigarettes causes cancer, Jmike values his health, therefore he ought not smoke cigarettes.
Right.
Right?
Jmike
Now we have
want
a value.
cancer.
Yeah. Now we have some like value premise that like I like it is the case that I should watch out for my health, or Jmike believes that he should watch out for his health. Boom. Now the conclusion follows because we placed an ought into the premises. Does that make sense?
Is that similar to the could that be compared with the Kalam cosmological argument?
No, the Kalam is going to just be like
totally off.
No, yeah, Kalam's going to be a separate. It's Kalam is just a style of like cosmological arguments. So that's going to be like everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. But this is different. This has to do a lot with morality and meta ethics. This is a problem for people who. So like let me put it this way. Here's an example. Suppose that I turn to a theist and I say, okay, I know that you think that X is good. Let's say they think homosexual marriage is bad, right, or something like that. And
okay,
I'm like, okay, yeah, why ought I not engage in homosexual activity? And then someone says, well, because God is the creator of moral laws. God is powerful. God is, I don't know, supremely divine over his realm. Any example that's given, they're going to give me descriptive premises. Like God is the creator, God is powerful, God is that. It doesn't logically follow that I ought to obey God's commands. The fact that God is these things doesn't follow that I ought have this value, or that value follows from those statements. The fact that God is powerful, it follows just as likely that homosexual is right or homosexuality is wrong, right? They're consistent with both of those views depending on the God. And so you don't get what you should do or should not do just by saying God's powerful, right? Or cigarettes cause cancer, therefore you shouldn't smoke. You have to do more work. You have to put in the gap. You have to say, okay, also I think I shouldn't do things that hurt my health. Now it makes sense why I shouldn't smoke cigarettes, right? Does that help? Or Secular, if you want to chime in and dump,
I think that was good.
Take my language and just make it way like easier to understand, because I probably fumbled on.
No, I think that really is good. And honestly, it for me, Mary, what I always do is I literally just look for the is or the ought. When I see the premises and the conclusions, when I see all the premises that say X is whatever, X is whatever, X is whatever, X is whatever, and then that final little thing at the end says, therefore X ought to, I go, oh, that's the issue. That's the issue, But yeah, this is something I think that is super, super worth, understanding and exploring more for yourself, Mary, because I think this is something that'll be very valuable, when it comes to everything else that you're evaluating in this realm. So
yeah, this is what Hume did. Is he was like, all these people are talking about what is this, that, and that, and then all of a sudden they're talking about what we should be doing, and they've made this huge gap.
Right.
And that's what Hume's, he kind of does it cheekily. It's not like this huge project that he sets out in his work. It's just kind of like this like little blurb. And it's made this huge kind of, Moore went into the like with naturalistic fallacy. It took on a life of itself.
It has a lot of power to it. I mean, that was it was a powerful argument.
And a way to kind of put it is you can't get prescriptions from descriptions, right? That's kind of the idea, unless you add the prescriptions into it. Yeah. And And so you'll probably use this, and you might notice in your life, you go, someone's like says, yeah, but this person is that or whatever. And you might start to realize, yeah, but it doesn't follow that like they should do that thing, right? Like, where is that? You just skipped over this, like their value. And that's what the is-ought is. It confused the ever-living shit out of me when I first got into philosophy. I just like spent a lot of time like, I don't get this. Like, so I'm right there with you. It's philosophers being really bad with language, I think. So.
Unfortunately.
or God being a bigot, and gay, but, and the no true Scotsman. I hear that when people say, well, they weren't a true Christian.
Secular knows all about this.
Yeah. For freaking sure on that one. Yeah. That's a very, very common one. And again, the reason I think it's super valuable to go through this, Mary, is that like you will start to see this stuff in your daily life, and then you'll start to recognize like, oh my gosh, I've actually made really important decisions in my life that have a lot of ramifications, right? For bad reasons. And now you can start to hone in on the most correct reasons out there, the good, that really good, as close to 100% concrete fucking solid proof we got. You're going to hone in on that, and you're going to make better and better decisions because of that. And I just think that's incredibly valuable. I will also probably say, Mary, just because I know Jmike and I went through this probably at one point in our lives, you're going to feel a strong desire to tell everybody about every single fallacy that you come across in your daily life.
It'll be a shirt that you put on.
Refrain from that feeling. It will pass eventually, but for a little while.
Yeah, and it's a good point, because if you get in debates with somebody, especially if it's a theist that likes philosophy, and you say, I think that's fallacious, and they come back with you as, was that a formal fallacy or an informal fallacy?
Now
you're sitting there scrambling, going, oh, okay, maybe I don't think I knew as much about fallacies as I did. Right? It's going to matter.
Okay.
Sorry?
You raise another question in me. What do you mean in informal and formal?
Yeah, I mean, so like a formal fallacy, for example, is going to be something where there's something wrong with like the structure of the argument. So if I say like, if I'm doing atheist experience, so the first premise will be like, if I'm doing atheist experience, then I'm doing it with secular rarity. I'm not doing it with secular rarity, therefore I'm not with the atheist experience. That's a valid modus tollens, right? Obviously, it's not true, because sometimes I do. It might be fallacious informally in some sense, where like it's not always the case that I'm doing the show with secular rarity, but the structure is valid. If I had said something like, if Jmike's at a burger place, he's eating a burger. He's eating a burger, therefore he's at a burger place. That's a fallacy called affirming the consequent. And this is getting like intense quick, I know, but the whole point is that it's fallacious for you to go, if X, then Y, therefore X, because the whole structure is if X, then Y, right? So not if Y, then X. So the next premise is going to have to be X, therefore Y. I hope that makes sense. I mean, look into affirming the consequent, look into like begging the question, right? Stuff like that. And or whenever you hear of a fallacy, like, sorry, I'm running out of fume at this point, but if you run into a fallacy, I don't know, say it's like
ad populum,
great one. Go look up and say, hey, is that a formal fallacy or is that an informal fallacy? And I believe that's informal, right? Because you're going to be saying, something to the effect of like, oh, virtue of all the people that think it's true, it must be true, or something like that, right? So,
but honestly, Mary, there is, I don't want to overwhelm you, but you have a lot ahead of you, and you can go as deep or as shallow on this stuff as you want. But abso-freaking-lutely, like there is going to be so many other wonderful things you will come across, and probably one day you'll just be reading through a fallacy, or you'll just be reading through some, epistemological understanding of blah, blah, whatever, and things will just start clicking, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, like, this, that, like, oh no, I see that now. I see the connection. So yeah, I wish you all the best of luck in that journey. It can be painful in the headache sense. but it's also really fun and valuable, I think. So
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm really getting good at spotting logical fallacies as I've learned more about them. But can you recommend a book or something on
There is so much online. Intro into logic, like just an intro book into logic would help. Intro into like formal logic, propositional logic, things like that. But if you're really just kind of looking at the fallacy kind of stuff, you have really good resources of just videos going over form. Do this. Look up like what a formal fallacy is and an informal fallacy. Look up what an argument is, right? Premises and a conclusion, because that's what, in virtue of a lot of the, like, if someone is presenting you an idea and you realize it's a formal fallacy or something, it's really good to know that stuff. And there's so much stuff online, just like intro to logic or logic fallacies, propositional logic or something like that. Type that stuff in. If you find videos where someone's just like briefly going over it and not showing you like in logic why it's fallacious, I would skip those videos. All the videos that will show you premises, talk about propositions and premises and guaranteeing the truth of the conclusion, inference rules. That's the stuff you want. Those are the buzzwords that you want to hear to know you're getting.
And once you start typing in those words, especially onto like the YouTubes and so forth, you will see a bunch. And watch a few of them. Watch a few different videos from a few different people on the exact same fallacy, because that's just going to give you a better understanding overall. So,
yeah, because it's very interesting to me. It's fascinating that people just say this stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's the bandwagon fallacy. I'm getting really good at spotting them, but I'm trying to learn.
Next time you hear somebody casually point out that, oh, well, it's a slippery slope to X, you can just, silently chuckle to yourself that they're just literally naming a fallacious argument.
Yeah, exactly. Which happens a lot.
Yeah.
You'll get a lot of that's a fallacy, and you'll be like, just ask them, what fallacy did I commit? Was it formal or informal? And like, a lot of times they'll just be like, blah, 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 blah. So but yeah, thank you, Mary. We'll oh, sorry.
That video with Trump using 15 fallacies in 3 minutes just blew my mind, because I was like, oh my God, that's all he's done.
I'd comment. I won't comment on it, but
I'll just say, some people make a lot of fallacies, and it's quite impressive. And
exactly.
That's where we'll leave that.
Yeah. And I don't think they know they're doing it when they're doing it, because they don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
Am I
unless we're just going to take the assumption that somebody is dishonest, which I think needs proof for, and there are individuals out there. There are definitely some apologists. I feel comfortable saying they are dishonest because they know that what they're saying is incorrect and have admitted to such in prior discussion and still continue to do it. But that's kind of the point of fallacies. That's why Aristotle and all his buddies sat around and figured all this crap out, is because when you hear this stuff, it seems like it's right. It really does feel like it is correct.
It sounds
and in reality,
it sounds great.
Right. And in reality, once we dig a little bit further, we find out that, oh, no, actually, it isn't. And this exact argument, this structure, can be used in so many other places that, again, makes you feel like it's right. But because it's using that fallacious structure, it's just not,
And people are sucking it up through a straw, They don't.
That's why con men have been able to exist for so long, right? Unfortunately.
Yes. God, I have one more question. I've lost it now, but okay. Thank you so much. Like I said, I'm trying to.
No problem. Was it the steel manning and straw manning one?
I think I got those down.
Okay.
But is there a set number of logical fallacies? Like there's 20 logical fallacies.
Well,
I think
there's going to be a ton of fallacies. I don't know if I can give you a number. But I wouldn't look at it from the perspective of that, like trying to catch them like, they're Pokemon or something like that in that sense. but it is good like to have them. It's just you want to understand what it means to be a formal and informal fallacy. I think so first, but it's not necessary. That'll kind of help you identify fallacious reasoning without even knowing a name of a potential fallacy or something. Like you'll be able to just spot it and go, okay, this conclusion just doesn't follow. It's invalid. There's something fallacious going on here, right? And that takes work or whatever, obviously.
Ignorance. Yeah, that's
you might get something like that. Yeah, I mean, they're useful to use in regular conversations. They're used more often than in the kind of propositional logic or debate. Here's my premises.
Right.
You rarely get like a syllogistic type of structure and arguments. I might be reading it more into that because I try to surround my circle with people that are, hey, I got this argument. What do you think about this? And it's like, I don't know if it works. What do you think about these premises? And that might just not be the reality. Like that might just be so niche that I might be just not saying the right things in that sense. But it is, all I'm saying is it's really good to understand like why they exist and where they branch out from in logic. And I think that it just falls into place so quickly when you do that. The same way if you learn like truth trees in logic or figuring out how an argument's valid, all of a sudden it clicks. It'll make you think quicker. I feel like, because I was not a good student, and I'm so glad that I learned a little bit of logic so that I wasn't conned by con men, because I think I probably would have been if I hadn't. So,
all right. Thank you guys. Have a great evening.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Hey, Jmike, I got a couple of super chats. Can I read them real quick?
Yeah, we can. I was gonna ask you to do that while my voice completely cracks out on me.
Well, we've got $20 from Thayer saying, thank you for everything you do. This has shown me the variety of arguments that theists use to try to justify themselves and has generally armed me in my own life. I think that definitely is up there on our list for why we do this, man. Yeah, I love when people say that. So, and then we've got $20 from Native Atheist, who has been a member for 1 year, telling us, I got my AXP shirt. Thanks. So, guys, remember, we got good merch. So you can get some too.
Secular, if you think we can get one in quick, I think we got time. I haven't seen a big stop here.
Let's take one more.
I was saying, I'm gonna leave that to you, and we can try to get through.
Okay,
through that,
I mean, you could probably predict, but I'm thinking we go line 17. I think that's a.
I thought so.
That's a good
might.
one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. So.
And apologies to anybody if we don't get to you. Please call back in when I get in, or when I do a call, or anybody does a show.
Yeah.
I always feel really bad when I don't get to other people.
I want to get through absolutely everybody. Unfortunately, the crew will at some point eventually just start hating us, and they'll just start yelling in our earphones and be like, guys, please. Please.
You'll see us material away and just like we're AI.
They'll just end the show and then we'll just be talking backstage thinking that we're still live and it's been like off for an hour or something. Yeah. That's what'll happen.
We got Xavier in Florida. Pronouns are he, him. Wants to talk about what's wrong with the Catholic Church. So just tell us what's on your mind and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so I'd say that the Catholic Church gets a lot more flack than other religions in this show, but I see them as the most progressive and inclusive. They've really changed with the times. The Pope called for the decriminalization of homosexuality and including transgender people into their masses and allowing them to even take the Eucharist.
Yeah. Can I, real quick, Javier, can I just jump in real quick?
Xavier,
because I think I might have. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said that, Xavier. I'm so sorry. Let me shout back.
Say Adam
real quick. I think I said Javier. So
I don't know what I'm thinking. We're okay.
Yeah. No,
I don't know what I was thinking.
Honestly,
sorry.
Xavier, I'm sorry. Hang on.
Start
it all over again.
We'll start over. Yeah.
But I will posit this real quick based on every single thing that you just said, which I think, especially compared to a lot of other religions, a lot of other denominations. Yeah, sure. Better on the Catholic Church side. The Catholic Church currently has over $1 billion in a bank account that is explicitly only used for fighting pedophilia lawsuits against their clergy. That's what's wrong with the Catholic Church. I don't need anything else, bro. I'm done. When you put aside $1 billion specifically to fight against holding people accountable for abusing children, that's it. If other people think that's unfair of me, fine. But that's where I am. What do you think?
Yeah, abusing children is awful. I think all of those priests should be castrated.
Okay,
that's my thing. That's my belief.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
To answer that, every church that I've gone to has an abuse hotline, like literally on their door, saying report abuse.
How does that in any way, shape, or form address what I said? Hang on, Xavier. What I said was specifically not that Catholic priests have abused people. Okay, not that that Catholic priests have done it more so than anybody. No. What I'm saying is that every day that the Catholic Church, as an international organization and a nation, by the way, Vatican City is the smallest nation in the world. Super weird. Every day that they take in money, a portion of that money is explicitly set aside specifically when a priest is accused of abusing a child. That money is set aside to make sure, to guarantee that that priest is not going to be screwed the rest of their lives in terms of finances. That's what that money is for. It does not, a single penny does not leave until somebody like Cardinal Pell from Australia is sitting in the High Court. And all of that money is explicitly used to hide the abuses and to continue the abuses. That is what that organization chooses to do. There is nothing in their doctrine that says that. There is nothing in the moment that requires them to do this. They have the ability to step back and evaluate their choices, and they did, and they chose to do that. That right there is absolutely not something you can come back from, in my opinion. Not while still doing those behaviors.
Yeah, and the example you gave of like putting up the signs and stuff seems like strange to me.
Yeah.
Imagine like a criminal organization that's out doing crimes puts up a sign like encouraging to turn criminals in.
Oh my gosh.
Right. That's not inconsistent with the view in any way. For one thing, though, that's going to be, I think, constitutive in both cases is there's not going to be a big level of credibility or of authority that they're going to actually do that. And that's going to be due to a lack of trust, right? Because of what's fundamentally been going on within the organization, criminals doing criminal stuff. And I'm not saying that everybody in this case is a criminal. There's good Catholics. My family's Catholic.
Absolutely.
But we're talking about the organization as a whole, or we're talking about how this is being. And then, by the way, this isn't just exclusive. We see this in Protestant.
Oh yeah,
church.
The Baptists for sure.
We see this in Baptists. Yeah, we see this all over the place. It's obviously we see the front of it. The Catholic Church, obviously, and that's more common for people. But this kind of response doesn't seem to work because it's precisely something that you would expect such an organization to do whilst continuing the activities that they do, right? I mean, why wouldn't people do that, right? I mean, it's the same thing as a criminal hanging out, or being very close to police chiefs and things like that, and working at a casino and doing illegal things. I mean, it's you blend in, right? That's what people do. They try to blend in with the rest of the people, so it takes the eye off you. But I don't know if that makes sense.
From my understanding, it makes a lot. Yeah, it makes sense. From my understanding, I thought that all the priests that have been charged, like that they have found evidence of abuse, have been removed from the church and arrested.
No. Flat out no. Flat out no. Flat out no.
Currently still covering up crimes that we know for sure are being committed.
Actively on a daily basis. Yes, in fact, they are, Xavier. I stand firmly on that and would be thrilled to the deepest core of my non-existent soul if somebody could prove to me that the Catholic Church is not currently doing those atrocious behaviors. The issue is, I already know we have enough evidence. So we've already seen it in Germany. We've already seen it in Australia. We've already seen it in Italy. We've already seen it in Spain. We've seen it in Canada. We've seen it in Mexico. I'll keep listing countries. We got about another 200 more if you want. But yeah, actively right now.
The claim. The evidence. I would love to. I will read the evidence if you tell me what it is. I'll read it.
Yeah, Der Spiegel, Derspiegel, I believe. It's a very prominent newspaper in Germany, very well known internationally. Go look up their reporting on it. Go look up the Guardian's reporting. Go look up the Observer's reporting. Go look up the International Consortium of Investigative Journalism, any one of those. ICIJ. Type it in, then type in Catholic Church.
I'm glad you heard it and gave a response, because I was going to say, you cut out on my end, but you heard it and gave
yeah.
And back to
those are the things I would. Those are the first things that come to my mind. I know I've read.
Just a few things.
Just a few. I know I've read stuff by Der Spiegel. I know I've read. I mean, it was translated. I don't speak German though, so that's like, you know. But Der Spiegel, Guardian, Observer, ICIJ, International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. So
Xavier, we're gonna have to push this.
Yeah,
a little close to the end.
If you find out I'm wrong, please absolutely come call me out on it, man. Abso-freaking-lutely, because I would love to be able to say I currently live in a world where the largest international religious organization is not actively making the world a better place for child abusers, because that's the world we live in now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and Xavier, I want you to give a kind of closing remark and stuff, your thoughts before we go. But I just, yeah.
Sure. Thanks. I wasn't expecting to go this route. I was going to speak on how the Catholic Church allows for the doctrine of evolution, but this was very interesting.
That's a good thing, though. Like, yeah, they're doing better than the young Earth creationists. I'm with you there.
Yeah, this was unexpected where it went. Yeah, I'll look up those sources. I'll see you guys. Have a nice day, guys.
Yeah, you too.
Hey, have a good one. I don't know why I heard you call him Adam. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah,
someone in the comments said you're still thinking of the problem of evil.
Yeah,
I was like, that's great.
I went to Javier first, and nope, Xavier. So,
well, that is gonna wrap. Secular, I enjoyed this show. It was great to have my brother from another mother, so to speak.
Yeah,
on the show. Yeah.
I know it was fun. I enjoy hanging out with you, and you've always got great stuff, man. I mean, you definitely were somebody that really helped codify some thoughts for me when it comes to philosophy and stuff. You have a lot of good stuff to say.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I really do. Someone prior was saying, like, if you break this down for me, it really helped. And I'm like, that's the first time you were in there. I was like, that's the first time I've heard that. So
I'm not used to tearing up. And
I'm not used to this. I'm kind of used to people being like, wait, what did you say? Like, so it's a work in progress. But I appreciate that. Maybe that's the evidence I'm making, the predictive expectation that I'm making progress. You know,
there you
go. So no, I appreciate you as well. I absolutely love having you next to me do the show and with everybody else. So I'm really, really glad
Thank you.
To have done the show with you. I do want to say before we go, just to remind people that this isn't the end. I think it might kick you over to the live stream, but if it doesn't, and you ask yourself, I really like this content and I really want to watch more. Well, there is a 24-hour live stream and you can tune in at any time of the day. It's just a constant stream of the archive of our shows, clips and specials from the last 26 seasons of the Atheist Experience. Again, if you want to go back in the AEN podcast, you can save some battery, maybe just listen to it on your phone, go for a run. That's always an option. But this link will be tiny.cc/AXPTV for you to join in and listen. And we also have a reminder on the question of the week, which is going to be wrong answers only. If it wasn't for blank, I'd still believe in God. Please enter your answers into the comment section, and we will put the top 3 from our. I don't know. I mean, I want to blame Jason and be like, if Jason picks it, he's gonna pick the worst ones. But you know,
I think it's fair to blame Jason personally.
Yeah, I just an excuse for me to blame something on Jason.
Yeah. We can't blame Greg because he's the one in charge of us. So like, I mean, come on, you know.
I'm sure they're all lovely and great, but we will pick the top 3. We'll put them on here for the next show, and yeah, let's if we can before we head out, I want to see that lovely crew cam again with the kitty and all that. It'd be great. Yeah.
Woo. Wonderful people.
Secular, you want to, I don't know, you want to have a closing statement before I end it here?
I don't know. I find such great value in this community, this show, and so many other wonderful things that the ACA does. And I'm just thrilled that there are people out there that show up every week and are excited to be here. Just remember you are not alone, and there are lots of wonderful, wonderful ways that you can reach out to these great people. Fan run Facebook, fan run Discord, super, super easy, and do it because I think it'll make your days a little bit better. So I don't know, maybe that's a failed prophecy, but call me out on it.
Well, luckily we're not in the, we prefer predictive expectations.
That's right.
Not prophecies.
That's right.
And so with that, make sure you head out, check our website out, atheist-community.org. Contact us at TV at atheist-community.org. We love you. Peace out.
What will it take for you to start opening your eyes, to start questioning the bullshit everyone around you buys? You think it's setting up your business, what goes on between my thighs? I wonder when we'll be rid of your lies.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.